Hello, welcome to Traditional Chinese Medicine. My name is Christina Kapothanasis. I'm a licensed acupuncturist here in the state of Hawaii and am board certified under the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. I am also the executive director of the Hawaii Oriental Medicine and Acupuncture Association. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about Chinese nutrition. This will be the first in a series that I'm going to go through the different foods that I recommend and go a little bit more in detail or in depth about how they are classified, just like the herbs. If you remember my previous episode on the different types of herbs and how we classify those in their thermal properties and the organs that they're associated with and their tastes and their functions. So food and herbal medicine is very similar, and food is really the best medicine. I tell all of my patients, as some of you listening know, that I want to use the herbs and acupuncture to act as a crutch to get the people back to balance or homeostasis for the different organs. Everything hopefully can function as optimally as possible, and then hopefully we can wean people off the herbs and acupuncture and keep them healthy with the right diet and lifestyle as in exercise, sleep, and stress control. So diet is a huge part of things that we can control. We can't always control our stressors in our life or how many hours we can sleep or the times we can sleep, but we can usually control what we put in our mouth, and that is a huge help to your health. So today I've started with the grains and starches. And within the grains and starches, I would like to break them down into the actual grains like rice or buckwheat, and then the higher glycemic index starchy vegetables that, as my mother likes to say, are more stick to your rib kind of foods, and then the lower glycemic vegetables, root vegetables like, for example, carrot, which might not make you feel that full, but it's definitely not classified as a green, non-starchy vegetable. So first of all, I'd like to start with rice. Everyone eats rice, especially here in Hawaii and in a lot of other countries. Maybe in the mainland, wheat, bread, and pasta may be more of the staple, but here definitely rice is, and rice is one grain that I heartily endorse. Rice has a sweet taste comparative to the other flavors, which are sour, bitter, salty, and a new flavor that they are coining umami. And in Chinese, we call this xin wei, the xin flavor. I've also seen it translated as pungent. The best way to describe this umami flavor is when you take a piece of spearmint or peppermint gum, this kind of fresh feeling in your mouth, that is more of an example of how you can feel this flavor. It disperses dampness and exterior. So for lack of a better word, we're going to use the Japanese word umami for today. Okay, back to rice. So rice is the sweet flavor out of those, and its thermal property, which, as a quick review, we have thermal property ranging from hot to neutral to cold. Is not, of course, touching the food and what it feels like, but it's the effect on the body that that food may have. So it may warm up a person who has cold symptoms, or it may cool down a person who has hot symptoms, for example, lots of inflammation in the body. So rice is nice and neutral. It's good for all conditions, and it has sweet flavor. It goes into the organs of lung, spleen, and stomach. And those are the organs that it's going to have the most effect on. And just like the herbs, all the foods have these own qualities. The functions of this herb are to strengthen the spleen and to help stop diarrhea. It boosts our qi. So for the frail people, what do we feed them? If they are frail and they have loose, watery stools, or even if they have food poisoning and they can't eat anything, they don't feel like eating anything, we can feed them juk, or as they say in Mandarin, zhou, or in English, the porridge or congee, however you know it best, which is where you take the rice and dilute it down into a soup kind of a dish. So this is the best thing. It's the easiest for the stomach to digest, and it's very nourishing. It gets back our qi, which is our energy, our digestive fire, if you will, and that is going to help stop our diarrhea. Now we have different kinds of rice, of course. I know people like the white rice, whether it's short grain, sticky rice, or long rice, but as everybody knows, it's probably better for them if they eat brown rice. And maybe we can have some hopper rice, which means the brown and white rice mixed together, which is a good start. Brown rice can be a little bit drier than the other colors of rice. So for people who are constipated, yes, it builds the spleen qi, and it has many more nutrients in the whole, but it can be a little constipating for people who are already suffering with that. We wouldn't want to give them brown rice every day. A nice alternative is we could give them the black rice. So if you could see this, it is very dark. It's actually hard to see on the camera here, but if I can put it in my hand, it is tiny black rice grains. Some people ask me, what is black rice? Yes, it's just rice that looks black. The best thing about black rice is that it nourishes our liver and our kidneys. I will repeat that because that is so important. Why is black rice so good? It is good because it nourishes the liver and the kidneys. And how do we damage the liver and the kidneys? We do every single day with all the stressors in our life. So if we can use brown rice, excellent. If we can use black rice, excellent. And if we can use as little white rice as possible, excellent. The brown and black rices are cooked similarly because the exterior hard shell is still intact with the black rice. It's a little bit more moist, and it's absolutely delicious. Another grain that is technically a seed, it's called buckwheat. Some people call kasha or groats. And buckwheat also has the sweet flavor. It has a little tiny bit of sour to it, and instead of being neutral, it is cold. So for people that have cold conditions, which would mean maybe they have loose stools or they're very weak, we wouldn't want to give them buckwheat on a regular basis for long term because it would exacerbate their cold condition. You can have buckwheat toasted or you can have it raw. When you toast grains, it makes it slightly more alkalizing. The opposite of alkaline is acid. So we do not want to put too much acid in the body. As we've discussed earlier, pretty much the green vegetables are the only alkaline foods. All the fruits, meats, grains, and starches are relatively acidic. So the more alkaline, the higher percentage of alkaline you have in the body. It helps to balance the acid. We also create acid with stress in the body, stress with work and relatives or friends, or stress from sleep deprivation and different kinds of stress. That will all create acid. And that's why buckwheat, especially if we toast it before we cook it, is going to make it even better for the body because it's alkalizing. And for the people here in Hawaii who are all nice and warm, then the buckwheat would be a nice cooling grain. It goes into the spleen, stomach, and large intestine. It is good for building up the spleen, and it also helps the qi to go down and to dissolve food, especially food stagnation. And then it is excellent for detoxifying, and it's good for the skin. So if a person has trouble digesting their food or they have a tendency to overeat and feel discomfort, then this will help that person to digest their food. It's also good for people who have excessive sweating, whether that's during the day they sweat easily or at night where they have night sweats. And it's good for people who have vaginal discharge, women who have vaginal discharge. It's also good for masses. For example, if you had a goiter or even a benign mass, there's fatty deposits or ganglion cysts, etc., different masses on the body. It's helpful for slowly getting those to dissolve. And that would be our buckwheat. Next is a grain, millet. And millet, I can show you, I want to show you the difference between millet and amaranth because they look very similar. They both look like birdseed. That's what I tell people when they ask me what it looks like. Whereas buckwheat has a more distinct triangular brownish purple color. People usually can think of buckwheat pancakes. It's a darker purplish brown color. But amaranth and millet are not as common. So if we can look at this, this is the millet. It's slightly bigger than the amaranth, which I can show you here if you can tell. They're both little yellow seeds, but these are much finer, the amaranth. So this is the millet, the larger and slightly lighter color seeds. And this is another excellent grain that we can choose from that is also a gluten-free grain. Millet is sweet, it is salty, and it is slightly cool. It's not as cold as buckwheat, but it's cool. They differentiate the thermal qualities into small increments. The millet is excellent for boosting the spleen, the stomach, and then we have kidney, which is usually not an organ except for the black rice that we see boosting the kidney. The effect that it has on the kidney is slightly that of a diuretic. So even though this grain is excellent for building and nourishing the stomach and spleen, it's good for stopping diarrhea and vomiting. We just have to be a little bit careful if we use this on people that are too dry, because it has that little bit of a diuretic that will make you pee or urinate a tiny bit more. And then classic textbook says that we should not eat this with almonds. So millet should not be taken with almonds. Maybe we will not pour almond milk in our millet cereal because they say that it can cause digestive discomfort. One way that we can know it's more dry is because unlike rice, which is more of a 2-to-1 ratio for water to grain when you cook it, the millet takes a 3-to-1 ratio. And even at 3-to-1, the millet is very dense. So if you wanted to make this into a congee, you'd have to add a lot more water to this one. Okay, and then we can come back to our amaranth, which was the slightly darker grain, and it's still tiny, 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 tiny. This one is excellent because it is slightly higher in calcium, protein, and iron than the other grains. It is in the same genus or family as quinoa, but everyone knows I am not fond of quinoa, nor am I fond of wheat or corn because they are so hot. The amaranth, on the other hand, is an excellent option if you would like to aim for a higher protein grain. This grain is also a sweet grain. It has a touch of bitterness to it, and it's cool. That is the textbook classification to this grain, but do not be afraid of it. It is not bitter in any way. It has a lovely nutty flavor when you take it. And it's going into the lungs and the spleen. It's excellent for boosting the lung energy, the qi, and then it's good for getting out or draining dampness in the body, which is something that most people have because of our American diet. We have lots of inflammation in the body, and that usually translates into dampness. So for the amaranth, this is also an excellent herb, an excellent food herb, yes, same thing, that will help people to go to the bathroom. So if you're suffering from constipation, then amaranth might be an excellent choice for you. Again, you can toast this grain before you make it, making it even more alkalizing and even better for your body and it brings out the nutty flavor. Wheat and corn and quinoa are my least favorite grains. I tell people to avoid wheat if they possibly can, because if you take too much of it, it will cause qi stagnation. The qi needs to flow smoothly in the body for the body to be healthy, and the wheat just obstructs that qi because it boosts too much and it causes qi stagnation, and then it will also cause thirstiness and the damp heat, and that is because this grain is so hot. It just burns off all the good quality fluids in our body, and it leaves the fluids that are left torched, and we're left with this sticky heat, dry, thirsty, making people feel very irritable and uncomfortable. And the quinoa and corn are right along those lines in that torching the body of its crucial blood and fluids that we need to maintain our homeostasis or balance in the body. The next classification I'd like to talk about is the starchy vegetables that are a bit higher and more filling on the glycemic index, which the ones that I usually recommend start with mountain yam, that's also called in Chinese shanyao, and then in Japanese some people know it as yamaimo. I know that nobody knows what I'm talking about in the clinic when I say this, so I brought a picture for you today. If we could show that picture real quickly. They usually, this was taken in Chinatown, they usually store it in this kind of sawdust material, and as you can see it has a brown prickly coating on the outside, but the one in the middle that's cut in half, you can see the very bleached white color of the potato inside. And this herb is also a vegetable. We use this dried in the clinic, but you can also eat it fresh. You might not be able to find it in every store in every city in the US, but you'll definitely be able to find it in Chinatowns or specialty stores. This is my favorite root vegetable. That's why I put it first, because it is technically an herb. And I use this in so many of my formulas to protect the stomach, to help the stomach heal. It's really an excellent herb for boosting your lung qi. It protects the kidneys. It helps with diabetes. There can't be a more perfect root vegetable than this one. It is sweet and neutral in its thermal properties. And again, it goes into the lungs, the spleen, and the kidney. It's going to also help nourish the essence, which is a substance that is hard to describe in terms of Western medicine. We have blood, we have qi, which is energy, we have fluids, we have essence, which is a thicker, stickier substance than blood. And essence is what we need to be full in our kidneys so that we can have a long and healthy life. And it's crucial for fertility in men and women. So we can use this for boosting deficiencies in weak people. We can use it for people who have loose stools. We can use it for people who have swelling, if their spleen and kidneys are starting to weaken, and then people experience swelling often in their lower limbs. We can use it for the deficient lung conditions or people who have chronic coughs, diabetics, people who are urinating more than 5 times in their waking hours is classified as frequent urination. And we can use it for vaginal discharge. The only time we do not want to use this, it would be contraindicated in people with excess conditions. So for people who are the opposite of weak, they are overly robust and they are suffering from different symptoms, then we would not want to overload on this. But by all means, don't take these contraindications to the point of not eating these vegetables, because I promise you, the sandwich bread or the Simon noodles are going to be much worse and more contraindicated than this poor little root vegetable or any of the ones I'm sharing with you today. So I will keep trying to I will keep trying to emphasize that. We also don't want to use this root herb if we have too much dampness in the middle jaw, which encompasses our stomach and spleen, because that will make it a little bit worse. The next root vegetable is sweet potato. Everybody knows what a sweet potato is. They're also called yams, and not quite, that's taro. But the sweet potato is orange or white inside, and then we also have the Okinawan sweet potato is purple inside. So sweet potatoes can be sweet in flavor, obviously. They sometimes are considered warm and sometimes are considered neutral in their thermal property. And they are going into the spleen and the kidney. So they will help to warm up the spleen, especially if they are baked versus other types of cooking methods. And they help to strengthen the kidneys. They're also good for calming the blood and helping to have easy elimination with the bowel movements. So we would use these for people who have different kinds of swelling, if we're using it specifically as medicinal food, and trouble going to the bathroom. You can also use this for skin conditions. When I said it helps to harmonize the blood, a lot of skin conditions are caused by blood disturbances, and so the sweet potato may be good for that. Again, if you have too much dampness built up in the stomach and spleen, then we would not want to eat too many sweet potatoes. In the other episodes I've done about ideal diets and what I advise for eating, you may remember that I don't advise we eat starchy vegetables or grains with every meal all day long in massive quantities. Because if we eat too much of any of the starches, it's all going to create dampness. The body doesn't need over boosting. If we boost too much, we're going to get some kind of imbalance. So all of this sugary starches and carbs are boosting to an extent, and yes, most of us need them. We don't take them away completely in any form, but we try to have about a cup to possibly 2, depending on your size and your athletic tendencies. So we try not to eat 1 or 2 cups of rice at every meal or sweet potato, because all of those eaten in excess will cause this dampness in the digestive system and will cause us to feel bloated and uncomfortable, and our food will not digest as well. The next root vegetable is taro, the picture that just came up. If we could have that one more time, thank you. So taro is very popular here in Hawaii. It's used to make a mashed potato kind of thing called poi. And as you can see in the back of the picture, there's the whole taro. It has a brown skin on the outside, and in the front of the picture, that's packaged taro that's cut in half. So you can see that the inside, when it's uncooked, is very white with little, I don't know if you can see well, little speckles of purple in it. When you cook the taro, though, it is nice and dark purple, and then you can make it into different forms. So the taro is sweet. It is a little bit of this pungent or umami flavor, and it is a neutral thermal quality. It goes into the stomach, and it was considered as the staple starch for the Hawaiians, and probably still is, or it's a close second to rice. It helps to build up the spleen, boost deficiencies. It helps to detoxify, and it also helps to dissolve some masses, just like one of the other foods we were talking about. The millet. No, excuse me. So we will want to give this to people, healthy people of course, but especially medicinally for people who are weak, who have no appetite, or who have different kinds of masses in the body. It's also good for people with diabetes. You just have to make sure that you do not eat it raw. If it's eaten raw, it has a small toxicity to it, and you can know that by your tongue feeling a little numb. I know that the taro leaves are also having this quality because people have told me, Christina, you can make these delicious meals. You just wrap things with the taro leaves, but you have to steam it for a long time so that your tongue does not turn numb. This is an excellent starch, and I would like to possibly take a break for just one moment while we set up for our next show, which will be airing next month, or you can watch it in the next segment on our website. And I will continue talking about the different kinds of starchy vegetables, and then at the end I will tell you a little bit of how I can prepare these very simply, just to give you an idea to get started with, and you can be as creative as you like to take it from there. So today's segment, we covered the grains that I promote, rice and buckwheat, millet, and amaranth. And then we started on the starchy vegetables of mountain yam, sweet potatoes, and taro. Next time we will continue with our starchy vegetables and some simple ways to prepare those. So thank you for joining us here at Traditional Chinese Medicine. And until next time, mahalo!